to order and ask Josh Waller, our Director of Policy and Government Affairs, to give us a legislative update.
Thank you, Chairman Snipes. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, full board, and Deputy Commissioner, thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and Happy New Year. Here we are, 2026. Pleased to be the privilege of being the first presentation of 2026. We'll see that they can only go better from here after this. So they're all going to be better than this. So good to start low, set these expectations down here. Well, with at the start of the year, we get a new session. And so the legislative session kicked off on Monday with the House and Senate advancing the calendar for the session, which we'll take a look at a little bit later, and also welcome new legislators who were elected during recent special elections. This morning was the annual Georgia Chamber's Eggs and Issues with presentations from Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker. They talked about their tax initiatives, insurance initiatives. The governor also spoke. He gave among his priorities, he gave a forecast of what he might be, of some of the things that will be in the budget tomorrow dealing with transportation. The treasurer will be able to kind of go through those with some of the line items on that, but definitely a very positive, very exciting news to build upon previous years. And then obviously tomorrow, as we think about this first week, tomorrow will be the governor's 8th and final State of the State. So that'll be tomorrow. He'll unveil the full budget as well as other initiatives for the session. You know, as mentioned, here's the legislative calendar. They broke another record this time because usually it's, once upon a time you might know the full calendar by the end of February, early March. Then it became at the start of session. Well, this time they put out the calendar before they even started. So before they began, they knew the question of when will it end. So you can see here today that it follows the pattern of the last couple of sessions in terms of the days in, alternating Fridays not in session, a smattering of committee days structured there, particularly in March, to give them that time to work those bills out. And then crossover days, actually the same, it's March 6th. This year was March 6th last year. Sine die April 2nd this year. Last year was April 4th. So in addition to the calendar, they welcomed 5 new members between the House and Senate. I'll just do a quick recap. You got Senator Jason Dickerson of Canton, who was elected to Senate District 21. That is the seat that was previously held by the now Treasurer of the United States, also apparently lovingly known as TOTUS, Brandon Beach. That's Senate District 21. In Senate District 35, you have Senator Jaha Howard, who is holding a seat formerly held by Jason Estevez, who's now running for governor. You can see those, and I've got the congressional districts that those House and Senate seats are underneath in parentheses. House side, you have Rep. Akbar Ali from Gwinnett County. He's in House District 106, and that was a seat previously held by Shelley Hutchison. Representative Eric Gisler out of Watkinsville, House District 121, seat formerly held by Marcus Wiedauer. And then the most recent special election was that of Representative Bill Fincher for House District 23 to fill the seat formerly held by the late Mandy Ballinger, who succumbed last year to her battle with cancer. And was certainly Representative Ballinger was definitely a strong advocate for the department, both on Transportation Committee and just in general, going back to House Bill 170. So with that, that's, the first week of session. There's not a whole lot going on, and obviously the treasurer is going to fill in some blanks on some things, but wouldn't be January with the way things have been going the last few years, without us also having to do a federal update appropriations. So we are still waiting to see. The last conversation we had, Congress had done a continuing resolution that went through January the 30th. Well, as you can see now, we are ticking those days away, and we are about 2.5 weeks, a little under 2.5 weeks out from the expiration of the current federal CR. Right now, there have been different scenarios of them trying to group different appropriations bills together and get them passed and sent to the president. There might still be some opportunities for that, and we were told today that some of the members of Congress who were going to be here for Eggs and Issues wound up having to stay in D.C. for some tight votes on appropriations. So we will see whether or not we get any kind of an Appropriations Act for transportation, or will we be operating under a short-term CR, long-term CR, full-year CR like they've done in previous years. Obviously, those will have implications, whether it's the short-term on our ability to deliver, and the treasurer is going to talk through that a little bit in the next presentation. So with that, again, I imagine when we come back in February and March, we'll have a lot more fulsome legislative update, but that's the extent of where the update stands today, and would be glad to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions? Being none, then the committee stands adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I would like to call the Finance Committee to order, and at this time, we will hear from our treasurer, Angela Whitworth. Thank you, Angela, for bringing us some, I hope, good information here.
Very, very good news. But before we get to that, it's like Christmas, you know. Christmas Eve, when you get done wrap one present and that suspense of the next day of unwrapping everything else, this is kind of what I feel like today. Before we get into eggs and issues and the outcome from it, I'm going to highlight and kind of briefly go over with all of you what we actually received in the 26 budget prior to what we're going to hear a little bit today from me of what the amended looks like in 27. As you can see in this slide, we had almost $275 million that was put into excise. That's an estimate for the $275 million. The Transportation Trust Fund fees, Transit Trust Fund fees, these were all actual collections from 24, if that makes sense. In state general funds, we had put into the budget an increase in airport aid and in local roads admin. They restored the cut that was taken away and then put back in for the locomotive diesel tax that was due to the suspension of the tax. And then they had some line item language that was put into payments to the ATL for them to evaluate their ridership that they had at the end of last year. On this next chart, you can see how all of our funding was spread across in this bar chart. Capital construction, capital maintenance, and local roads admin made up roughly 52% of our overall budget for 26 thus far. In routine maintenance, 20% is made up of that. That's roads, roadsides, and our bridges. In general operations, we have roughly 11%, and that consists of like the admin, data collections, planning office, program delivery, and traffic management. LMIG is 10% of excise. We have 4% going to the GO bond debt. And then 3% of our overall budget goes to intermodal, which is rail, transit, airport aid, and the ports. And then roughly 1% is allocated to payments to CERTA and payments to the ATO. I'm just really going to highlight some of the bigger ticket items on here. As you can see, we had additional funding put in airport aid for 26. In capital construction, that was a big item of $107 million. That was used to, between capital construction and capital maintenance of the $110 million, those were help do additional capacity projects, help with inflationary costs that we were seeing. Because in the capital maintenance side of the house, you know, we've been basically resurfacing about half of the miles we once did. And then some of the other programs that are on here were just like regular housekeeping stuff of like, you know, truing up the debt service, DOAS insurance adjustments, and teamwork billing. On this next slide, the bigger ticket item here is the truing up of LMIG to 10% of excise, bringing that to $247 million. All the other items, like in local roads admin, that was basically us putting in pedestrian improvements for the Cumberland Community Improvement District and some roadway safety improvements that we had done. And then the rest of these items on here are just housekeeping items with the exclusion of program delivery, where we had increased funds for that office delivering a much larger program put into the budget. On the next slide here, as you can see in the rail program, I talked about the reduction that was restored, the cut that was restored due to the suspension of the locomotive diesel collections. In routine maintenance, you'll see almost $34 million that was allocated to the department for contracting and material costs. In traffic management, they added $8 million to support the district and TMC, streamline the review process of commercial driveways and traffic control device permits to provide a more friendly, better customer service experience for all of our constituents. And then lastly, in transit, you'll see the additional $9.9 million. In transit trust funds, a portion of this is transferred to the ATL, with the remainder being utilized through a formula distribution throughout the state. In transportation trust funds, those dollars are used to run the FTA program and utilized for match. And then that $500,000 that you see there in the red is the removal of one-time funding for the Chatham County Ferry. And then lastly, this is just really in payments to start treatment of the Garvey debt service. And this is what we received to date. Now, all of you that went to Eggs and Issues or heard about it in the paper or the media, these are the big items. We are so appreciative to the governor on his budget recommendation. Like many of you heard this morning, if any of you in this room have not, that we've got roughly added to our budget in addition $2.35 billion with a B. He announced that $1.8 billion will go to I-75 South for bidirectional lanes. He announced $200 million would go toward 316 to really turn it into a true, safe expressway, eliminating traffic lights on 316. All the Georgia fans in the room, go Dogs! I'm looking forward to that one. And there's $250 million that's been set aside to local road admin with no match needed. And then finally, he set aside $100 million for rural bridges. As you can see, this is very impactful to us due to all the increased costs that we've seen happening in the department over the last 5 years. You know, over the last 3 years, we've received $1.5 billion, $1 billion, and now $2.35 in our budgets. This is unprecedented for this to happen. And so we look forward to tomorrow, after the State of the State, getting our hands on the final draft copy, like Christmas Day, we say, to see what's really in it and what makes up the detail behind it. And the commissioner will be addressing all of this next Tuesday at our joint appropriations hearing that we're having on the 20th. Us, the commissioner, some of the staff, our board chairman will be attending that meeting. It's next Tuesday at 11:30. If any of you want to call in and listen to the hearing, please do so as well. I did highlight and tell you guys that after the State of the State, what we'll do is we'll put together a document outlining all the adjustments in the amended and the 27 budget, and we'll send it out to you. So that way, if you have anybody in your area, your constituents asking you questions, that kind of thing, you've got your hands, you know what the numbers are made up of and what it goes for. So we'll try to get that out to y'all quickly on Thursday or first thing Friday. As we're putting that together. And then finally, you heard Josh talk about federal reauthorization and us being currently in a continuing resolution. What this is that we have until January 30th, and we've received $534 million thus far out of our daily pro rata share. If we don't receive additional remaining funding soon, we're very hopeful that they'll act on something before the end of the month. Then you may see in the months ahead us having to make some adjustments on advancing federal aid projects going forward. So I just wanted to bring that up to everyone in the room. But as far as I wished I had my hands on the document, but like I said, this is a great day for all of us. It's a big win, and it seems like everybody in the state has got something and got a gift today, because every city and county government, it seems, has been touched by this budget. Any questions?
Do I have any questions from any of our group here? Angela, you've done a great job with explaining this, and we certainly will appreciate getting our hands on the copies when the additional information is given to us after the State of Address tomorrow. And we appreciate that, but we also appreciate the good news. We appreciate that present that you just opened for us, and we will work towards keeping that and moving forward in our state of Georgia. If there's no other remarks, this committee stands adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, now, at this time, I call the Program Delivery Committee to order. And we will have two presentations this afternoon. The first is by the Office of Program Delivery. It will be an overview by Kim Nesbitt, our State Program Delivery Administrator.
All right, thank you for that wonderful introduction. Good afternoon, Chairman, Deputy Commissioner, and members of the board. My name is Kimberly Nesbitt. I am the State Program Delivery Administrator, and I am pleased to present to you an overview of the Office of Program Delivery, its roles in delivery, and the large project encroachment permit process. If I can get it to work. There we go. My brain works faster than the machine. Am I supposed to be pointing in a certain way?
No, we just, hold on. Get my one?
Yeah. Let's see. It's up. User errors. So let's continue. The Office of Program Delivery manages over 1,000 projects statewide that follow the design bid build process. This includes federally blended and 100% state-funded projects. OPD is also responsible for the Local Administrative Program, affectionately known as LAP, for projects sponsored by local governments. For fiscal year 2025, Office of Program Delivery successfully authorized 138 right-of-way phases equaling $131+ million in funding, and 109 projects led to construction that equal up to $1.3 billion. For fiscal year 2026, we are programmed to authorize 154 right-of-way phases equaling $106+ million in funding, and 153 projects led to construction that exceed $2.1 billion. In order to deliver OPD's assigned program, we have over 200 employees for the capital program. Project managers on average are assigned 12 projects, and the traffic ops, bridge, and local sponsor programs have on average 20 projects. The office is also responsible for invoice processing through the Consultant Management Information System, CMIS, for A&E contracts. Our contract techs are responsible for monitoring and responding to customer service questions and issues and resolution for consultant invoice payments for the entire department. Office of Program Delivery follows the plan development process, which is a document that provides detailed guidance regarding the delivery of various types of projects from start to finish. The plan development process directly supports fulfilling GDOT's mission with overall goal of delivery at high-quality transportation system that benefits the needs of multiple users of the system. I would, however, like to highlight the plan development process manual is not intended to establish policy with the department, but to provide guidance in adhering to the policies of the department. The Office of Program Delivery is currently issuing over 1,000+ projects, as stated previously, through the program. At a minimum, without the plan development process, there wouldn't be a consistent, significant delivery across the board, and would make it extremely difficult to manage such a large number of projects. One process we wish to highlight that requires quality assurance in the plan development process compliance is the encroachment permit for large on-system projects. Office of Program Delivery is currently managing 14 active encroachment permit projects. This process was established in February of 2023 to increase transparency and consistency for large permitted projects. These projects are 100% local or private funded that districts do not have the resources to manage. The district engineer or the district traffic manager confirms eligibility. If qualified, they will request a project number and a PM from Program Delivery. The majority of encroachment permits are managed by the district for projects such as turn lane signals, installations, and private utilities. GDOT ensures structures, traffic studies, and typical sections are reviewed by subject matter experts. Deliverables are stored in ProjectWise, our official electronic file software, and must comply with state and federal laws if required. Large encroachment permits are projects funded 100% by local and private sources, as previously stated. The sponsor is guided through the process to ensure all required studies and deliverables are submitted for review and approval. Projects that qualify for this process are projects that change operations, widenings, interchange, roundabouts, and bridge projects. The project manager also provides guidance on how to request the permit and the assignment of construction management staff by the district for the sponsor. Key milestones of the encroachment permit process are limited scope concept reports for approval, preliminary field plan review, public outreach, preliminary bridge approval, as well as design exceptions and variances if needed. Final milestones are final field plan review, right-of-way activities, field plan review approval, readiness of plans, specifications, and estimate submission. For projects with right-of-way, a final field plan review is scheduled, but can be waived if the quality of the plans evaluated at preliminary review have no major concerns. The sponsor is responsible for coordination with utility companies within the right-of-way and their relocation. For on-system parcels, right-of-way certification requires a copy of the record deeds. Right-of-way on designated state route or federal routes on system must be acquired in the department's name by the local government when closed by deed. Right-of-way on designated state routes on system required condemnation must be condemned in the local government's name, transferred to the department name deed after condemnation is complete and the local government has a full and final possession. At closing, the local government must ensure legal descriptions and plats reflect the latest required right-of-way and easement for all on-system parcels. Public outreach is required. However, the document is not required. A document is not required, and all federal and state permits, for example, 404 stream buffer variances, is still applicable. Once the quality of the plans are verified, the encroachment permit is requested by the District Traffic Ops Office. District Traffic Ops issues the permit in what we call Notice to Proceed, NTP, and the project is transitioned to construction for management. To highlight a successful encroachment permit project, the Ocean Terminal at CS 2356 Louisville Road and State Route 25, US 17, ramp to Chatham County. This proposed project starts at Georgia's Port Authority Ocean Terminal and ends at the merge between I-16 westbound and US 17 State Route 404 spur southbound. The project constructed an exit ramp dedicated to trucks from Ocean Terminal to the bridge over Louisville Road and merged with an entrance ramp for southbound US 17 State Route 404 spur. This is a great example of successful delivery that met the local developers' sponsored schedule, GDOT standards, and will increase mobility for the state of Georgia. And as you can see by the image, those are the concepts or what they thought they were going to build and what's actually built, and it's almost relatively a perfect example of when the plans actually see fruition and what you thought you were going to end up building. But this concludes my presentation. Thank you. And if there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to entertain them.
Thank you, Ms. Nesbitt, for that presentation. Are there any questions? Yes, Andrew.
Thanks, Jeff. I just want to say a quick word to Kim and Albert, Shelby, and the whole program delivery team on the work they do every day for the department. You saw early on in the presentation, they're managing well over 1,000 active projects in the department, just showing the size of our capital work program, the body of work that they're responsible for overseeing. And as you saw in those flow charts, it's a very simple process. I like to call it 500 easy steps to delivering a transportation project.
Right.
But Kim and her folks are well expertise in that in that area. They deliver projects all the way up to the point of every month when Albert provides the letting, and that portfolio continues to grow. And, you know, each individual, as she said, has 12 projects ranging up to 20 projects. So it certainly keeps them very busy, but they meet those challenges and meet those expectations. But I wanted her to show this example here, this ocean terminal, of that large encroachment process where you have an entity saying, we'd like to do something on your transportation system, and we would like to pay for it, right? And how we then coordinate and provide sort of the necessary oversight so that those steps are followed, but they're followed in an extremely expeditious fashion to meet sort of the requirements of that local sponsor. So this example is a perfect one where Georgia Ports Authority is, as Ms. Ann knows, is making a huge investment in the ocean terminal area to expand the footprint of the Ports Authority property down there. And we were able to work with them through this process to deliver that ramp. I can't remember the exact timeline, but it was pretty quick.
It's January of 2024, and it's partially open now.
Right. So it just shows sort of how that process can work, and how we work with local sponsors and partners to deliver projects quickly. So thank you, Kim.
Well said. Any other comments or questions from committee? Good. Ms. Evans, thank you for this presentation. It's always, I'm always amazed by what your office does. I'm not surprised at what you can handle, but I'm certainly amazed. So keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We intend to spend every dollar and ask for more and get those projects on the
Okay. All right. So next, we have Brian Lott, who's a District 6 Program Manager. He's going to give us an update on State Route 5 corridor. Take it away, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me. As stated, my name is Brian Lott. Thank you, Chairman, Deputy Commissioner, members of the board. I am the District 6 Program Manager in the Office of Program Delivery, so working for Ms. Nesbitt. And I'm here today to present on the State Route 5 corridor from Blue Ridge to McKaysville, including the new McKaysville truck bypass. All right. So let's begin with a quick overview of the SR5 corridor in Georgia. State Route 5 begins at the Alabama state line, just east of the city of Graham, Alabama. It traverses through the counties of Carroll, Douglas, Cobb, Pickens, and ends at the Tennessee state line in Fannin County. 3 portions of this route are on the National Highway System, including the portion of State Route 5 at the southern end of the I-75 concurrency in Marietta up to the Tennessee state line. Today's presentation will focus on State Route 5 projects that are either under construction or in pre-construction in Fannin County and Polk County, Tennessee. The corridor begins where SR5 diverges from US 515, beginning in Blue Ridge, and continues north to the Georgia-Tennessee state line. I will discuss the 7 projects identified in this slide in greater detail throughout the presentation. As a reminder, the cone icon represents projects that are currently under construction. Here's a list of those 7 projects located in GDOT District 6 and Congressional District 9, as well as 1 project in Polk County, Tennessee. The projects collectively reflect a total investment that include preliminary engineering, right-of-way, construction, and utility of approximately $340 million. The primary purpose of this corridor improvement south of McKaysville Industrial Drive is to provide additional capacity and reduce crash frequency and severity. The purpose of the north is twofold: to construct a truck alternative route to reduce conflicts between large trucks and pedestrians and private property in the downtown area of McKaysville, and improve the operations and maintainability for the 2-lane section of roadway. All improvements are also expected to enhance economic development opportunities within Fannin County and the Appalachian region. In addition, providing these operational improvements along the corridor may lessen crash frequency and severity. This corridor improvement proposes to widen the existing SR5 to 4 lanes with a 14-foot center turn lane beginning just north of the intersection with State Route 515 in Blue Ridge and ending at McKaysville Industrial Drive. The improvements would then transition to two 12-foot lanes with improvements to the pavement, curb and gutter, and sidewalks through downtown McKaysville. A single-lane roundabout will be constructed at SR5 at School Street to incorporate the new construction truck route. The McKaysville truck route has a length of approximately 1.1 miles and terminates at a proposed roundabout at State Route 68 in Tennessee. Now I'll provide you some details of improvements along the corridor. So the first segment of SR5 is PI 17040. It is from State Route 515 for 1.24 miles to Pineview Lane. The roadway is currently 2 lanes in this section and with improvements already at SR 515. It will be widened to a 4-lane roadway with a 2-way left turn center lane. This project let to construction in February of 2025 and is anticipated to be open to traffic in the summer of 2028. This slide is looking north along State Route 5 as it deviates from State Route 515. The intersection is a high-growth area and has an average daily traffic of about 20,000 cars. State Route 5, as it's going to the north here, has an average daily traffic of about 16,000 cars for SR5. This slide is looking north along State Route 5, just north of Progress Circle. You can see the clearing that has taken place and the silk fencing that is installed, although we're really zoomed out. Currently, Utilities is relocating in this area. The next segment of State Route 5, Project ID 17039, is 5.65 miles from Pineview Lane to Wash Wilson Road. The roadway is currently a 2-lane roadway in this section and will be widened to 4-lane with a center turn lane. The project is in right-of-way acquisition and has construction funding proposed for FY 2028. This slide is looking north along State Route 5 at Mercier Orchards. If you're not familiar, Mercier Orchards gets thousands of visitors daily during peak fall weekends during apple time. This slide shows some of the proposed improvements along the corridor, including the top image is the new connector road between State Route 5 and Old Highway 5 just in front of the regional hospital. The State Route 5 will be widened to a 4-lane with a center turn lane in this section and will replace 2 bridge culverts. The next segment, PI 17038, is 1.52 miles from Wash Wilson Road to Old Flowers Road. The roadway is currently 2 lanes in this section as well, and it will be widened to 4-lane with a center turn lane up to McKaysville Industrial Drive. From McKaysville Industrial Drive to Old Flowers Road, it'll transition back to a 2-lane roadway. The project let to construction in 2021 and is anticipated to be open to traffic in the summer of 2026. This slide shows some of the proposed improvements along the corridor, specifically at the realignment of McKaysville Industrial Drive. This slide is looking north along SR5 and shows the construction of that McKaysville Industrial Drive in its new location. The next segment of SR5, 17782, is 1.83 miles from Old Flowers Road to State Route 60. This project is reconstructing the 2-lane roadway with curb and gutter and sidewalks and construction of the roundabout at School Street for the truck route. This project led to construction in 2023 and is anticipated to be open to traffic this spring. This slide is looking north along State Route 5, just south of Oliver Street. You can see the construction of a wall and the utilities being relocated. The top photo here is the proposed roundabout design at School Street. The bottom photo on the slide is looking north along SR5 through the intersection at School Street. You can see the clearing for the roundabout and the utility relocations that are taking place. The next project, PI 17784, is 0.34 miles and is the first segment of the truck route. This project will construct the new location, 2-lane truck route from SR5 to the Georgia-Tennessee state line. This project has completed right-of-way acquisition and design and is scheduled to let this summer. This slide is also looking north along SR5 at School Street. You can see the roundabout under construction and where the new truck route will go, running under and parallel to the TVA transmission lines in the photo. This slide shows the proposed design of the new location roadway from the roundabout to the state line. The next project, PI 620490, is 0.84 miles and is the second segment of the truck route. This project will construct the new location 2-lane roadway from the Georgia-Tennessee state line to Tennessee Route 68. This is all in Tennessee. The project is expecting right-of-way acquisition by Tennessee to begin early this year and will need 14 months to acquire the property. This slide shows the proposed design of the new location roadway with the state line to the proposed roundabout at Tennessee's Route 68. This slide shows the proposed design of the new bridge required for the truck route. This bridge has a total length of 1,300 feet and it will span over West Tennessee Avenue, the Ocoee River, the Tennessee Overhill Association Railroad that includes 6 tracks and a service road, and finally, Tennessee's Route 68. This project is forecasted to let by Tennessee DOT in the second quarter of 2027. Then the final project, ID 16515, is the replacement of the SR5 bridge over the Toccoa River in McKaysville. This project is in preliminary design with right-of-way acquisition expected to begin in the fall of 2026. This slide shows the proposed bridge replacement of the existing bridge. The existing 2-lane bridge was originally built in 1936. The new bridge will have wider sidewalks to accommodate pedestrians and improve drainage conditions. The delivery of these projects required significant amount of stakeholder as well as public involvement. GDOT representatives met with the city and the county representatives, HOAs, community groups, and developers along the corridor to inform and coordinate the schedule and impacts of the projects. Public information open houses were completed in 2011, 2016, 2018, and we plan on going back out to the public early this year. GDOT has recently updated the project corridor website with updated plans, need and purpose statements, and planned detour routes. The website can also be reached by visiting the major project section of the GDOT website. To recap, there are 7 projects in construction or in design along State Route 5 from Blue Ridge to McKaysville. The delivery of these projects required a significant amount of stakeholder as well as public involvement. GDOT remains committed to delivering these projects with pre-construction and construction phases in the most efficient manner possible. These projects will improve capacity and operations as well as promote economic development in the region. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time, and I'm open to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Lott, for that presentation. It's really, really good. Any question from committee members? Yes. Oh, yeah.
I agree.
I think we should be very proud of what you all do. That's right. Hey, could I ask you to go back to that picture of the slide that showed the bridge over the river? Yeah, the other one, the one before that. That one, yeah. So I'm assuming the new bridge is the lower bridge. Is it replacing that upper
So, no,
crossing?
sir, we're actually replacing the bridge on the bottom. That's the current bridge. The bridge above it is actually a truss bridge that's even older than the bridge that we're replacing.
Okay. Okay, that answers that.
So that top bridge does not allow, truck traffic and stuff like that on it, so.
Okay. Cool. Anything else from the committee?
I like that.
Yes.
How many miles did you say the total project was?
I believe it's 20 miles, I believe.
Okay, thank
Is that right? Okay. Any other questions? If not, Mr. Lott, thank you for that presentation. Look forward to seeing it complete.
Thank you, appreciate
All
it.
righty. If there's nothing else to come before the Program Delivery Committee, we will now stand adjourned.
Hey, thank you. I'd like to call to order the committee of the whole and ask Mr. Grant Waldrop to come forward, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman,
Yes,
members of the board, Deputy Commissioner, for having me here today to provide an update on our activities in District 6. For those of you I haven't had an opportunity to work with yet, I'm Grant Waldrop. I'm the District Engineer for Northwest Georgia. I'm honored to lead a group of outstanding men and women who work to build, operate, maintain, and administer the state route system in District 6. And today I'm going to share with you some accomplishments and also talk to you about our ongoing work. So District 6 is located in Northwest Georgia. It includes 17 counties. And we have the major interstates of I-20, I-75, I-575, and also some of Georgia's shortest interstates. Way up in Dade County, we have I-24 and I-59. So the district includes 155 centerline miles of interstates. We have 1,888 centerline miles of state routes. In our area of the state has a population of just under 1.4 million people. So there are parts of our district that are seeing a tremendous population growth. Specifically, Paulding and Cherokee County have seen a 10% population growth increase in just the last 4 years. We're also seeing an increase in freight traffic. Of course, we have the long-standing carpet capital around Dalton, but we've also seen the new logistics hubs that have developed around Bartow and Gordon County. So Northwest Georgia's growth is bringing with it some significant transportation challenges. So looking back over the last year, I want to highlight the accomplishments for each of the 6 main district sections. And I'm going to start with our administration office. So in procurement, they processed 931 requisitions that totaled almost $30 million. Our procurement team was responsible for creating 806 purchase orders with 40 invitations to bid. In human resources, they hired 71 employees and they promoted 81. Now, I'm going to brag on our HR team because they're the fastest in the state for getting jobs posted and filled. Their work has increased our head count at the district to 341 people, and that puts our staffing level at 92%. That's the highest it's been since I've been district engineer, and it is that work by our HR team that's making it happen. So moving over to the pre-construction office, this office is divided into 4 sections, and I'm going to start with our planning and programming section. There's only one person there, but she's been very busy because we've just gotten back into holding in-person public meetings. Our roadway design section has 10 engineers, and last year they completed 4 concept reports, they had 5 field plan reviews, and they submitted 1 project for letting. Our right-of-way team has 15 people. They acquired 290 parcels. They certified 13 projects for letting, and to support our local projects, they oversaw the acquisition of 49 parcels and certified 3 projects. Our survey team has 11 people. They surveyed 168 acres. They staked 5.1 miles of right-of-way, and they provided 1 mile of consultant checks. So I want to highlight the project that our pre-construction team delivered over to construction last year. This project is in Pickens County. It's State Route 53 business at Dragon Drive. And this is the only entrance to the Pickens County High School, and it's currently got a traffic signal. But we started to notice an increase in the number of left turn crashes at the intersection. and we were able to secure safety funding to install a roundabout at this location. So our design team took on the challenge to deliver the project, and our right-of-way team acquired the property that we needed. This one was difficult because it required substantial coordination with the school system, both for the design and for the right-of-way. Just north of this crossing, there's an at-grade railroad crossing. Now, nothing can slow down a project like having to coordinate with the railroad. So the school system was adamant to have a right turn bypass to approach the school. But our design team was able to work with them and make that work in the design without impacting the railroad crossing and keep the project on schedule. Also, after our right-of-way team had to work with the school, they had an electronic sign that was not located on their property. And so our right-of-way team worked through that issue with them. But in that process, we discovered that the driveway was actually not located on the school property either. It was on an easement. So that was a backup and start over with our right-of-way acquisition. But despite these challenges, our team worked hard to deliver the project, and it was included in the letting last July. So now I'm going to move over to the construction office, and this chart shows our active construction projects by improvement type. So currently, District 6 has 51 projects under construction with a contract value of $819 million. That's a record for the district. We completed 16 projects in fiscal year '25. Widening projects make up the largest share of the work, with 59% being reconstruction and rehabilitation. Bridge projects make up the second largest group, and that's 20% of our work. And maintenance resurfacing is the third largest, that's at 10%. Now I'm going to highlight one project for each of the congressional districts in Northwest Georgia. So I'm going to start in Congressional District 7. So this project will widen State Route 20 in eastern Cherokee County. I have the projects listed here going from west to east. The first two projects are open to traffic. We now have a 6-lane divided highway going from I-575 to Union Hill Road. The next phase that we have under construction is on the other end of the county, and that goes from State Route 369 to Post Road in Forsyth County. And that's the single largest construction project that we have in the district. It's got a contract value of $104 million. So that project's currently 11% complete. The primary work so far has been clearing and utility relocations. The next project to get started is going to widen from East Cherokee Drive over to State Route 369. And that project was included in the November letting just a couple of months ago. The last project is going to go from Union Hill Road to East Cherokee Drive, and it's currently planned for the March letting, provided there's funding available. So this will be the last project that will complete the corridor widening. And if you look at the corridor as a whole, including all phases, design, right-of-way, construction, and utilities, across all 5 projects, you're looking at an investment of $457 million to widen State Route 20 in Cherokee County. Now I want to move over to Congressional District 11. Mr. Lewis, I know you're familiar with our second largest project in the district, and that's to widen Old Alabama Road from State Route 113 to Pegamine Road. This project will widen the roadway and include bridges over Rowell Ward and Pumpkin Vine Creek. It will tie into the recently widened roadways on each end of the project. So when complete, Old Alabama Road is going to be a 4-lane rural facility with a 44-foot depressed grass median. Including all phases of the project, it represents a $120 million investment. So the picture shown here is where the new driveway that goes to the switch has been constructed. So the concrete roadway is Old Alabama Road. Currently, we have both directions of traffic on one side as we're working through the staged construction. That asphalt driveway, that goes up to the switch, which is a major data center. That's an investment estimated at $772 million. We were able to work with them to build this driveway, or to work with them as they built the driveway within the construction project. I will say that's one impressive right in, right out. They had big plans for that driveway. Now off in the distance, you can see Georgia Power's Plant Bowen. Now, this work is important for Cartersville because it's going to directly connect State Route 113 that runs in front of Plant Bowen, coming from Rockmart, all the way to I-75. So once Old Alabama is complete, we plan to reroute State Route 113 onto this alignment, and it's going to serve as a truck route south of the city of Cartersville. The project's current completion date is expected at the end of this year. The next project I want to talk about is the Villa Rica North Loop Bypass in Congressional District 3. I'm proud to report that we officially opened this road to traffic on January 5th. The project delivers 2 miles of new location roadway. It connects State Route 101 to State Route 61 with 2 modern roundabouts on each end of the bypass. Mr. McIntyre, I know you know better than anyone what relief this is going to bring for downtown Villa Rica. Previously, State Route 61 forced tractor trailers to navigate an all-way stop and then go through back-to-back 90-degree curve or 90-degree turns across the Norfolk Southern Railroad crossing. If drivers didn't make that turn just right, they were stuck trying to back up in downtown, or worse, they would hit the crossbucks or the traffic signal. So with the opening of this road, truckers are going to have a much easier way to get from one side of Villa Rica to the other. The project also included a tunnel under the new roadway for the future Gold Nugget Trail. By collaborating with the city for this future multi-use path, we've saved taxpayers from a significantly more complex and expensive project to build the trail down the road. The total cost for all phases of the project is $42.5 million. And like I said, it's a road you can go drive on today. All right, the next series of projects I want to discuss are the State Route 5 widening projects in Fannin County. That may sound familiar. That's in Congressional District 9. And so Brian Lott just gave a very thorough, interesting update on this corridor, so I'm just going to touch on it briefly. I do want to note that we have 3 out of the 4 widening projects under construction on this corridor. The last project that goes from Pineview Lane to Wash Wilson Road is going to be wrapping up design work soon, and it's going to go to construction once funding is available. I want to mention this corridor has benefited from state general funds. The southernmost project received over $40 million to be able to advance into construction. It was due to those state general funds that we were able to get the portion of the road that goes from State Route 515 to Pineview Lane into construction. The final corridor project I want to talk about is in Congressional District 14, and that's widening of State Route 92 in Paulding County. Now, the first project to widen was from the Douglas County line into Nebo Road on the south side of the county. That was open to traffic in 2024. Currently, we have 2 projects all the way on the other side of the county, the northeastern side, that are under construction. They're currently 50% complete, and they're expected to finish in the spring of 2027. Those 2 projects represent an investment of $90.9 million in the corridor. The picture shown here is of the new roundabout that was just opened to traffic. That's at the intersection of State Route 92 and Old Burnt Hickory Road. That's just south of the Crossroads intersection. And if you're familiar with the area, you know what a choke point this has been along State Route 92. So opening the roundabout, getting it into operation has been a huge improvement for this area. So there are 5 projects left to complete the corridor widening. 2 of those projects are planned for fiscal year 27, and the last 3 are planned for fiscal year 28 if funding is available. And in the final alignment, State Route 92 will be a multi-lane divided highway that can accommodate the increased traffic from the quickly growing Paulding County. All right, before I leave construction, I want to take just a minute and talk about traffic safety and work zones. So on the right, you see our standard traffic control diagram. That's for lane closure on a divided highway. This configuration is a national industry standard. It features 2-mile advanced warning sequence, has tapered lane closures with an arrow board. It's got barrels around the work area. This is a proven, reliable method for closing lanes. We've utilized it for years. It probably looks very familiar as you approach our work zones. However, despite following these protocols to the letter, we've recently identified a troubling spike in fatal crashes approaching our work zones on rural interstates. Now, every time there's a fatal crash, we dispatch a safety enhancement specialist to review the situation, just to see if there's any improvements we can make to the roadway. What we found during these reviews is we were deploying the traffic control exactly as planned. There were no equipment or setup failures. The challenge lies in the unique environment for rural interstates. It's very high speeds in an area where drivers just don't expect to see congestion. We're now seeing more rear-end crashes at the beginning of our queues going into our work zones. And I believe the primary driver for this increase is the rise in distracted driving. Motorists simply are not reacting to traffic stopped in front of them, and they're having the rear-end crashes as they hit the back of the queue. So we knew there had to be a better way. And on a recent resurfacing project on I-24 in Dade County, we piloted a queue protection plan. The vehicle shown here is our queue truck. It's equipped with a truck-mounted attenuator. It's got 4 high-intensity strobe lights. It's got a light bar. It's got a programmable message board. And unlike static signs, this vehicle is designed to be dynamic. It sits on the shoulder, and its mission is to stay with the beginning of that queue. So that means as the queue builds or recedes, the vehicle is going in reverse or forward on the shoulder. So they always stay ahead of that stopped traffic. So the first thing a high-speed motorist is going to see is a massive lighted warning. So I actually equipped this vehicle with a rear-facing camera. I intended to be able to show you some nice videos of the near misses we tend to see at the beginning of work zones, but I've got none of those videos to show you today. We had 0 incidents approaching our work zone. That's a massive success. In our world, no news is the best news possible. Interesting videos would have made this presentation a lot more enjoyable, but I'm happy to say nobody crashed in this work zone. I think the queue protection plan is something that deserves consideration on future rural interstate projects. All right, now I'm going to change over to our maintenance office, and I'm going to start with our canopy clearing on our interstate routes. Removing trees that are too close to the roadway is important for a number of reasons, but most importantly, it improves the clear zone, that recovery area that motorists need whenever they leave the roadway. Removing fixed objects near the pavement gives drivers more room to safely slow down or stop without having to hit a hazardous object. So trees that are too close to the roadway can also fall on the road. That's very concerning at interstate speeds. There's also a benefit for winter weather. Especially towards the end of the event, as you're driving around, you'll see the roads look mostly clear, but as you approach shady spots, you might still see some snow and ice that are in the shade. And by removing the canopy, we're opening that up for more daylight, which is the department's best ally to get the roads back open and safe for the traveling public. So that decreases the amount of rock and salt that we have to deploy, and it also gets our roads open back much faster. Last year, we focused heavily on I-20 in Carroll County, as well as some slope maintenance contracts across the district to make sure that the areas we previously cleared don't grow back up. During fiscal year 25, we executed 7 canopy clearing contracts. This fiscal year, we're going to execute another 5, and that's going to complete I-20 and I-575. So once that work is complete, we're finished with canopy clearing on the interstates in District 6. It's been a long time coming, and excited to see the completion in sight. Next, I want to talk about our work on State Route 101 in the city of Rome. So this section of 101 was frequently requested by residents and local officials due to the pavement conditions and poor ride quality. Although the corridor had been previously evaluated, it ranked as a lower priority and not considered a candidate for our resurfacing program. However, due to the amount of public input and the rough pavement due to the number of utility cuts in this area, it demonstrated a need for resurfacing a small stretch. We were able to advance this project by delivering it through an invitation to bid maintenance contract. This allowed the work to move forward outside of the constraints of the traditional resurfacing program. So funding was provided by the State Maintenance Office, which allowed the district to address a locally significant issue while maintaining balance across the broader resurfacing program. Overall, this project demonstrates GDOT's ability to respond to public concerns and effectively use maintenance contracting tools to deliver improvements at hotspots that might otherwise go unfunded or delayed under the traditional prioritization methods. Another activity that we focused on during fiscal year 25 is our drainage maintenance. So these structures play a vital role in GDOT's overall transportation system. Getting water off the roadway and keeping it off the road are very important. We've utilized our maintenance contracts to replace pipes as well as extend their useful life. This year, we completed 13 pipe relinings, and we replaced 13 pipes. 11 of those were dig and replace, and 2 were replaced by jack and bore. Getting this work completed proactively can prevent a future emergency. And during those emergencies, you typically have to close the road while you're reconstructing it. You can see an example of one of our dig and replace pipes from the pictures on the left. The completed project is on the bottom. And the pictures on the right show one of our old corrugated metal cross drains. And we installed a plastic pipe liner. So you can see the pipe liner in the bottom right. This significantly extends the life cycle of those pipes and provides some additional protection from the water and the elements. And we're planning to continue this work into fiscal year 26. We have 9 locations for relining planned and 8 pipe replacements. Another focus for our maintenance office has been keeping our guardrail in a good state of repair. Guardrail maintenance is critical for roadway safety, providing protection for motorists and preventing them from departing the roadway or hitting a hazardous object. The last time I talked with you, we had just restarted our in-house guardrail crew. I'm pleased to report their good work has continued. During fiscal year 25, we completed 636 repairs, with 291 of those repairs with our in-house guardrail crew. Guardrail is one of those underappreciated devices that you just don't notice until it's damaged. It's very important to keep drivers from hitting hazardous objects. So the cost of that is substantial. In District 6, we spent $2.7 million over the last year just replacing guardrail. All right, and finally, you just can't talk about maintenance without mentioning the winter weather response. This last year, winter gave us some unusual challenges. January 10th of 25 brought a significant winter weather event to District 6. While parts of the district saw 6 inches of snow, which was our largest event that we've seen in years, the real story here is the sheer volume of resources that our team was able to bring to bear to keep Northwest Georgia open. Altogether, we worked 10,655 person hours for the event. That's essentially doing 5 years worth of work in just 4 days. We deployed 105,000 gallons of brine, 3,600 tons of salt, 727 tons of stone, and 11,000 pounds of calcium chloride. Now, I want to help you visualize just how much brine I'm talking about. If you put 105,000 gallons of brine into tanker trucks, you lined them up in a convoy going down the interstate, that convoy would stretch for 1/3 of a mile. Now, one thing I want to highlight here is the picture on the bottom right. So that's the Northwest Corridor Express Lane. We have to prioritize which roads we treat during winter weather. And because traffic volumes are lower during a winter storm, we typically close the express lanes instead of sending resources to keep them open. So the picture in the bottom right, that's what a roadway looks like when you don't treat it. Now, once we had accomplished our mission in Northwest Georgia, we got the assignment to go back and get the toll lanes open. So our crews worked tirelessly overnight once we got the assignment, and we had the lanes ready to be open the next day. Now, I want you to pay close attention to that snowfall total on the left. This has some key differences from the next one that I'm going to show you, because the next week we were hit with a very different storm. All right, so this time the whole state got hit except for Northwest Georgia. Now, I would like to say, I never thought I'd say this, but it was actually much more difficult to deal with this storm than it was the one that impacted us at home. I guess for a sports analogy, you know, it's much more difficult to play an away game than it is a home game. So we ended up with people all across the state. We were putting out brine in Albany. We were plowing in Savannah. For that event, we worked 9,539 hours. We applied 124,000 gallons of brine, 615 tons of salt, 50 tons of stone, and we used 3,250 pounds of calcium chloride. And I just want to mention, you know, as we recap the winter storms from last year, we're getting back into that time again this year. In fact, we have crews that are not working today because they have to come in tonight to respond to potential impacts in our mountain counties. So just please keep those crews that are working. I know these are impressive numbers, but there are people behind all these numbers. So keep them in your thoughts and prayers that they're able to complete their work safely tonight, and hopefully we don't get any impacts. All right, so one more thing in maintenance. I want to talk about our work on 2 railroad crossings in LJ. Now, we don't typically work close to rail lines. That's the responsibility of the rail owner. But in this case, the crossing was rough, and this part of the rail line was no longer in service. So the decision was made to remove the crossings until those lines were reactivated. This project required coordination between GDOT and Patriot Rail, and the nature of the work just required closing of the state route as we removed the rail crossing. So we knew it would be important to minimize the impact, and thanks to our dedicated work on our special outfits team, State Route 2 was only closed for 14 hours while they reconstructed the crossing. That was on September 2nd. And State Route 282 was closed for 12 hours on September 3rd. So during this time, the crossing was completely rebuilt from the base up. State Route 2 required 690 person hours, 20 tons of GAB, 10 tons of asphalt. State Route 282 required 632 hours, 52 tons of GAB, and 23 tons of asphalt. This was great work by our District 6 team to eliminate the rough crossings while continuously working to minimize disruption to the traveling public. All right, moving over to the utility office. During fiscal year 25, the office approved 1,190 utility permits. That's with an average approval time of just 2.6 days. So if people say we're not approving permits fast, you can reference this number. We're less than 3 days. Sorry, I don't know why that happened. So they processed over $14.3 million in reimbursable agreements to make the roadways ready for construction. They participated in reviewed plans for 54 field plan reviews. They aided in the letting of 31 projects. They reviewed 15 quick response projects. And the work in this office is critical to delivering our construction program. Because honestly, utility relocations, they end up taking about half of the overall construction time for a widening or any other project. So shifting focus to District 6 operations, I want to share what I consider to be the most important metric that we track. So this chart, it shows fatal crash rates per 100 million vehicles miles traveled. So there are 2 ways you can reduce this number. You can increase the number of miles traveled, or you can reduce the number of fatalities. Now, if you go back to 2021, the state was seeing some very concerning numbers. But since that time, we've been on a steady decrease. In District 6, when you compare 2025 to 2021, we've seen both an increase in the vehicles miles traveled as well as a decrease in fatal crashes. So there are 3 primary factors in every crash: the driver, the vehicle, and the road. We have the most influence over that last factor, and we've been working very hard to keep our roadways safe, especially with the rise in distracted driving. We've been placing edge line and center line rumble strips across the state route system. We've enhanced the signage to prevent wrong-way drivers. We've even put down special pavement in our sharp curves to improve the friction and improve the signage in those curves. But I want to highlight one other improvement that we've been using to make our roads safer. That's the widespread installation of roundabouts. So District 6 was actually a pioneer with roundabouts in the state. The first 2 that were installed on the state route system were down in Carroll County back in 1999. So following that, it was a relatively quiet period for a couple of decades. So this is a slide that I showed to the board in my last presentation, which was September of 23. At the time, we had 14 roundabouts open to traffic. So fast forward to today. We have 28 months since my last presentation. We've opened 13 new roundabouts. That means that over the last couple of years, we're opening a roundabout at the pace of 1 every other month. So that number includes 2 new roundabout interchanges. That's where the interstate ramps in and a roundabout as you're exiting or entering the interstate. Of these new roundabouts, 6 replace all-way stops and 3 replace traffic signals. So changing from traffic signals or stop signs to a roundabout, that significantly improves the safety and the traffic flow at the intersection. And as expected with new roundabouts, we do tend to see some resistance when they're first proposed. especially in areas that don't have one. But that completely changed once the roundabouts open. In fact, one of the most common pieces of feedback that we get from the public once we open the roundabout is all the other locations that we need to go put one. So, wait, there's more. We have an additional 49 roundabouts in the pipeline. So, 4 of those are already under construction. We have 35 in design, and we have 10 proposed as concepts. So I would say the future for roundabouts is indeed strong in District 6. Members of the board, this completes my presentation. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to provide this update, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Any questions? Lot going on.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we stand adjourned.